Welcome back, my viewers and subscribers. Today we are going to tell a scary story about a group of friends who get lost and try to escape. Like and subscribe. A group of 5 friends, Jake, Emily, Sam, Olivia, and Max, decided to go camping. The forest, known for its eerie silence and towering trees, was the perfect place for a weekend adventure. Armed with backpacks, tents, and plenty of enthusiasm, they set off early on a crisp autumn morning. The first day was filled with laughter and exploration. They hiked deep into the forest, far from the well-trodden paths. As the sun set, they found a small clearing and set up their camp. A campfire crackled merrily as they roasted marshmallows and shared spooky stories. As night fell, the forest's atmosphere shifted. The cheerful crackling of the fire seemed muffled by the oppressive silence. Shadows danced menacingly at the edge of their camp, and the wind whispered through the trees, sounding almost like voices. "Did you hear that?" Emily asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Probably just an animal," Jake replied, though he didn't sound convinced. One by one, they retreated to their tents, the unease settling over them like a thick blanket. Hours later, Jake woke with a start. He thought he heard footsteps outside his tent. Gathering his courage, he unzipped his tent and peeked out. The campfire was out, and the darkness was impenetrable. He strained his ears but heard nothing. Sighing, he lay back down, unaware of the eyes watching him from the shadows. The next morning, they discovered Sam was missing. His tent was empty, his sleeping bag neatly rolled up. Panic set in as they searched the area, calling his name. The forest seemed to swallow their voices. "We need to find him," Max said, trying to keep calm. "He can't have gone far." As they delved deeper into the forest, the path became less discernible. The trees seemed to close in on them, branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Hours passed with no sign of Sam. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but they pressed on. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a small abandoned cabin. It looked ancient, its wooden walls rotting and covered in moss. Desperation drove them inside, hoping to find clues about Sam's whereabouts. The air inside was musty, and the floor creaked ominously under their weight. A sudden scream pierced the silence. They rushed outside to find Olivia gone, her flashlight lying on the ground. Panic turned to terror. "We have to stick together," Jake said, his voice shaking. "Whatever's out there, it's picking us off one by one." The remaining 3 huddled together, their backs to the cabin wall. Night fell again, and fear hung heavy in the air. Every rustle, every whisper of wind set their nerves on edge. Emily was the next to go. One moment she was beside them. The next, she was gone, pulled into the darkness with a blood-curdling scream. Jake and Max ran, adrenaline fueling their flight through the forest. They didn't stop until they stumbled into another clearing, panting and exhausted. "Max, we can't keep running," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to think." But Max's eyes were wide with fear, and he bolted again into the forest. Jake called after him, but it was too late. The darkness swallowed him whole. Now only Jake remained. He felt the weight of the forest silence pressing down on him, the oppressive darkness closing in. Determined to survive, Jake pushed on. He moved with caution, every step measured. As dawn approached, he saw a faint light through the trees. Hope surged within him, and he broke into a run. He burst out of the forest, falling to his knees on a gravel road behind him. The forest stood silent and still, hiding its secrets. He glanced back one last time, and for a moment, he saw a shadowy figure watching him from the tree line. Gasping for breath, Jake got to his feet and stumbled away, vowing never to return. The forest had claimed his friends, and he knew it would haunt his nightmares forever. Make sure to grab a snack and sit back to listen to more. Years passed, but the memories of that horrific night never left Jake. He had tried to move on, to bury the past, but the haunting dreams and survivor's guilt persisted. Therapy helped a little, but nothing could erase the images of his friends disappearing one by one. One evening, while going through some old belongings, Jake found an old map of the forest. A rush of emotions overwhelmed him: fear, anger, and a strange sense of unfinished business. Despite his better judgment, he felt an undeniable pull to return to the forest to find out what had really happened and perhaps to lay his demons to rest. Jake contacted a renowned paranormal investigator named Dr. Elena Martinez, who specialized in supernatural phenomena. Though skeptical, she agreed to help him, intrigued by his story. Together, they assembled a small team of experts: Seth, a tech genius; Maria, a survivalist; and Ben, a local guide who knew the forest's layout better than anyone. Armed with the latest equipment and a determination to uncover the truth, they set off early one morning, much like Jake and his friends had all those years ago. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The oppressive silence and towering trees felt all too familiar. "This place gives me the creeps," Maria muttered, scanning the area with her flashlight. "Are you sure about this, Jake?" He nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. "I need to know what happened." As night fell, they set up camp in the same clearing where Jake and his friends had stayed. The tension was palpable as they gathered around the campfire, the flickering flames casting eerie shadows. Dr. Martinez set up her equipment, trying to detect any paranormal activity. "There are high levels of electromagnetic interference," she noted. "Something's definitely here." Suddenly, a chilling wail echoed through the trees, freezing them in their tracks. "What was that?" Ben whispered, his face pale. Jake's heart pounded as he recognized the sound. It was the same cry that had marked Olivia's disappearance. "It's starting," he said, his voice tight with fear. Determined not to lose anyone, Jake and the teen stayed close. But as the hours dragged on, the forest seemed to come alive with unnatural sounds: whispers, footsteps, and distant screams. Around midnight, Seth's equipment picked up a strong signal. "There's something just ahead," he said, pointing towards a dark, narrow path. With trepidation, they followed the signal, the trees closing in around them. They reached a clearing, and in the center stood the same abandoned cabin. It looked even more decrepit than Jake remembered, its windows dark and foreboding. Dr. Martinez approached the cabin, her equipment buzzing with activity. "There's definitely a presence here," she said. "Be careful." As they stepped inside, the air grew colder and a sense of dread washed over them. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside. The room filled with an otherworldly mist, and the walls seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. Maria screamed as shadowy figures emerged from the mist, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "They're spirits of the forest," Dr. Martinez realized. "They've been trapped here for centuries." The spirits closed in, their whispers growing louder. Jake felt a cold hand on his shoulder and spun around to see Sam, or what was left of him. "You left us," Sam's ghostly form accused, his voice echoing with anguish. "I didn't mean to," Jake cried, tears streaming down his face. "I couldn't save you." Dr. Martinez stepped forward, holding up a talisman. "We can free them," she said. "We just need to break the curse." Reciting an ancient incantation, she raised the talisman high. The spirits recoiled, their forms flickering. But the forest seemed to fight back, the mist swirling violently. "Hold on," Ben shouted, grabbing Jake's arm. "We need to get out of here." As the incantation reached its climax, a blinding light filled the cabin and the spirits let out a collective wail. The mist dissipated, and the door burst open, allowing them to escape. Stumbling out into the night, they watched as the cabin collapsed in on itself, the curse finally broken. The forest seemed to sigh in relief, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. Jake looked back one last time, his heart heavy. He knew his friends were finally at peace, but the scars would remain forever. As they made their way back to civilization, he felt a sense of closure. The forest had taken so much from him, but it had also given him the strength to face his fears. He vowed never to return, knowing that some mysteries were best left undisturbed. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please subscribe for more.